Prepare the way of the Lord. Make his path straight. Every valley shall be filled, and every mountain and hill shall be made low. And the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough ways made smooth, and all flesh shall see the salvation of the Lord. With these words, John begins his ministry. They are words from Isaiah. They are words that everyone would be familiar with. They are words that call forth the coming of the Messiah. They all knew that. They were raised on that. It was kind of like, I don't know, mother's milk, so to speak. And so people began to come out to hear what John had to say, to see what John was doing, to sit at his feet. They all came. The poor, the outcast, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, those who represented the high priest. Pretty sure the high priest didn't show up themselves. They all came. And John looks around at the crowd, and the first thing he says is, "You brood of vipers! Who told you you could get away with it?" Well, there are pretty much only two ways to take that. One is to walk out. Another is to get mad. And a lot of people did those. But there is a third way, and that way is to listen. And many, many people stayed, and they listened to what this man, who is just a little strange and starts by being nasty to everybody, what he has to say. And he tells them to repent. He tells them to be washed in the waters of the Jordan and repent of their sins so that they will be saved when the Messiah comes. Well, oddly enough, people didn't just go, "Oh, okay. Think about that. I don't know, can I do that? Might be hard." The poor said, "What shall we do?" And John says, if you have two coats, give one to somebody who doesn't have one. You only need one. You can't wear two coats at the same time, unless it's bitter winter and it wasn't there. So give one away. And then the tax collectors, talk about outcasts, the tax collectors are there and they say, "What shall we do?" And John says, you should only collect what you're supposed to. Don't up it so that you can line your own pockets. Don't make people pay more than they should. And then, most bizarre of all, the Roman soldiers, not Jews, no clue what the Messiah is, who the Messiah is, what that whole prophecy was about, ask him, "What should we do?" And he says, you should be kind. Just do your job. Do not overdo it. Do not become bullies to the people you are supposed to be protecting. Be kind, share, don't bully. This sounds a lot like love your neighbor as yourself. It also sounds a lot like something that most of us learned as children. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's a tenet of every major religion in the world, not just Christianity, not just Judaism. Everybody has that. Everybody understands that you should do to others what you want others to do to you, and that just makes sense, doesn't it? There's nothing unreasonable about that. There's nothing hard or difficult about that. It's just a matter of behaving like I want you to behave, so that we can get along, so that we can have common conversation, we can have common ground upon which we can stand and have our differences, because we have already established this communal bond of treating each other the way we wish to be treated. It just makes sense, people. It's not hard. But we want to make it hard. And we want it to be more than it is, because it just, well, that old book, all I ever needed to know I learned in kindergarten, it kind of feels like that. And most of us by now, not all of you, but most of us have probably at least finished middle school, if not high school. Some of us have gone to college. Some of us have amassed multiple degrees because we needed them or because it was where our path was taking us. But the basics we learned early on. When your mother said, "Don't hit your brother." When she said, "Share your toys." When she said, "You can each have a cookie," and one of you thinks, "I was better than the other one. I should get 2 cookies." I remember when my daughter began to ask us questions about being adopted. She wasn't really interested in the whole family dynamic thing. She wanted to know how much it cost to adopt. Well, we adopted through the county. So all it cost us was the court fees. And my husband, ex-husband, was a lawyer and he knew somebody, so they weren't very much either. It was pretty cheap. And then she wanted to know how much it cost to adopt her brother. And I said, well, it costs the same. And she said, how come I wasn't more expensive than he was? It's that kind of thing. If we begin to understand that God treats all of us equally, even when maybe we don't think we should be treated equally, then perhaps we begin to see the mountains laid low, the paths made straight, the valleys filled in. Perhaps we begin to understand that the kingdom isn't quite the big bang that we might think it is. It might be the little things. It might be the things that sustain us every single day, that keep us going, that get us out of bed, that make us smile at people when we greet each other instead of just going, hi. It's about love. Even before Jesus arrived on this earth, it was still about love. When Moses went up on the mountain and God said, I've had it with these people, I'm going to wipe them out, and Moses went, wait, just let's talk about that. You know, these are your people. You brought them out of Egypt. You wouldn't want Egypt to think that you were a false God. Let's just go with this. And God says, well, okay, you're right. And changed God's mind. It's when Abraham and Sarah found out they were going to have a son and they laughed out of sheer joy and also out of the ridiculousness of the whole thing. It's why John's father was made mute when he dared to challenge the prophecy of Gabriel the angel, who said, you're going to have a son. I know you're old, but you're going to have a son. And you're going to name him John, and he's going to be an incredible person. It's about love. It's about caring, sharing, not bullying, not cheating people, only taking what we need or what is required, instead of saying, you know, I could make 10% on this deal. Just add a little more, nobody will know. And then the people say, this is all incredible, and maybe he's the Messiah. And John says, no, don't put that on me. I am the precursor. I am the one who came to tell you that the Messiah is coming, and the Messiah will be greater than me. And then he goes back to rather frightening language and talks about the fact that the Messiah will separate the wheat from the chaff, that he has his winnowing fork in his hand. He's not even a baby yet. He has his winnowing fork in his hand, and he is going to proclaim the good news to the people as he separates the wheat from the chaff and throws the chaff on the fire. And I know people were scratching their heads going, that's good news? How is this winnowing out of the good and the bad? How is that good news? Because does that mean that I'm going to be chaff or am I wheat? And how does that work with sharing and being kind and loving your neighbor and doing unto others? How does that all fit in there? Well, the fact of the matter is that none of us are all good, and none of us are all bad. Even the people we want to think are all bad, we all know people we think are all bad, or at least enough bad that we should just go and throw them out. We all know those. But Jesus knows that there's wheat in people that look like they're just chaff, that there's chaff in people that have grown tall and straight and produced good wheat. And he will take the bad from the good and save that which is good in us and throw out and destroy that which is wrong. That which makes us say, I should get more than she does. I'm better than him. Jesus will restore us to pure love in God at the second coming. Jesus tried to do that at the first coming, and many Jews turned from their ways and followed him, and many did not, because they were scared, because they didn't want things to change, because the status quo, bad as it might be, was still better than who knew what would come after that. Brothers and sisters, we do not need to fear. The cleansing fire is a whole and wonderful thing. It is good news that that which is within us that is wrong will be cleansed, and that which is good will be raised up and rewarded. And that's what John the Baptist is telling us. That's his good news. Repent. Begin to get rid of that chaff ourselves with the work of the Lord, offering forgiveness. Begin that work now, so that when the Christ comes, it might not take quite so long for the winnowing to take place, because the good will triumph over that which is evil, and we will have turned from our evil ways to the ways of God.